We begin 2016, though, with a subject all too familiar: terror. Across the globe, attacks or fears of attacks are making some major headlines. In Israel, a gunman opened fire outside a popular bar in Tel Aviv, killing 2. In Afghanistan, 1 person was killed when the Taliban sent a suicide bomber to target Westerners at a popular restaurant. Right here at home, federal authorities say the would-be terrorist who planned to target a Rochester, New York bar on New Year's Eve sought to prove he was worthy of joining ISIS. And in Germany, Munich police are thanking residents for staying calm after authorities received concrete tips that an attack in the pre-midnight hours was imminent.
In Munich, Germany, we are looking forward now little more than 20 minutes before New Year's Eve is ushered in. And what we're hearing is that Munich police are begging people not to go anywhere near crowds because of the threat of a terror attack. They're telling people that they've evacuated 2 train stations, the Hauptbahnhof and the Passing train station. Also, they're saying that they know that there might be a threat in the crowds and to please avoid the crowds, that they have vacated the train stations. They're saying that they got a tip-off from a French intelligence agency about an immediate terror attack in the city, and therefore the warning went out.
Things are returning to normal inside Munich's central train station just hours after German police closed it down due to an attack threat. Police received a tip hours before midnight that Islamic State militants from Iraq and Syria were planning suicide attacks. The central station and the Passing station were both closed for several hours. Munich police president Hubertus André says they believe 5 to 7 suicide bombers were planning to take part in the attack.
At the moment, we are in a situation in which we received names. We can't say if they are in Munich or in fact in Germany.
The threat came as Europe entered the new year under a state of heightened alert, 7 weeks after 130 people were killed in a Paris attack claimed by Islamic State. Bavarian Interior Minister Joachim Herrmann says security will remain vigilant.
We are well prepared, but everybody also knows that no one can give a 100% guarantee that such attacks won't be carried out. I think that most people in our country are aware of this without becoming scared and alarmed.
The Munich alarm follows days of security warnings across Europe, warnings German security forces think will persist into 2016.
Tonight, just hours before millions ring in the new year, a terror plot thwarted. 25-year-old Emmanuel Lutschman charged with an alleged plan to kill innocent people on New Year's Eve in a machete attack at a restaurant in Rochester, New York, all in the name of ISIS. Lutschman allegedly telling an FBI informant, "We just got to show our allegiance, and I will take a life. I don't have a problem with that." The government claiming Lutschman went to Walmart with the informant to buy materials for tonight's attack. Black ski masks, zip ties, 2 knives, a machete, duct tape, ammonia, and latex gloves, allegedly recording a video taking responsibility for the coming massacre. The city of Rochester canceling its fireworks tonight. It's the fear of that kind of plot that has triggered the largest police presence ever at a New Year's Eve celebration here in Times Square, as more than 1 million revelers get ready to crowd the crossroads of the world.
And law enforcement really beefing up security here, scanning this crowd for weapons with metal detectors, banning all backpacks and large bags.
6,000 heavily armed officers on patrol on rooftops and in the air. The NYPD prepared with bomb-sniffing dogs, security cameras watching every move.
Plan for the worst and then expect the best. And we've always had the best here in New York, every New Year's.
The largest police presence ever here.
Largest ever, I believe. That's true.
Officers outfitted with tens of thousands of special cell phones to share suspicious images with each other.
And Gio joins us now from the heart of Times Square. And Gio, besides the advanced technology, it's also the sheer manpower and not just those in uniforms.
That's right, Tom. The NYPD has its counterterrorism task force out here right now. Many of them are undercover. They assure us that this will be the safest place in the world. Tom.
After a grim 2015 marked by 2 deadly extremist attacks, Paris is preparing to ring in the new year in an atmosphere of what officials call sobriety and togetherness. and amid beefed-up security. Nevertheless, the show must go on, says French Defense Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian.
The threats are still here. There are still risks. The presence of these forces across the country and what we've seen today shows that we have to be extremely vigilant. But that vigilance doesn't stop us from celebrating the new year.
Last year, hundreds of thousands of revelers descended on the Champs-Élysées to celebrate. This year will be slightly different. The fireworks have been cancelled, the light display on the Arc de Triomphe cut short. And some, like Australian tourist Mark Scarrett, say they'll avoid major sights on New Year's Eve.
I don't think we will be heading out into the main attractions just because of the things that have happened, but generally enough in the days and in the nights we do feel safe enough.
But with 2,000 more security personnel on the streets, Parisians are hoping to ring in a better 2016.
It may look like the holiday season in Brussels, but it depends on your view. Security is ramped up after 2 people were arrested in connection with a possible New Year's Eve attack plot. The security threat level was raised from 2 to 3 at police facilities in the capital and their personnel. Prosecutors say police found military clothing and Islamic State propaganda, but no weapons or explosives. Belgium has been at the heart of investigations into last month's Paris attacks, because 2 of the Paris suicide bombers had been living in Belgium. Authorities say their investigations also revealed threats of an attack on symbolic places in Brussels during the New Year's Eve celebrations. Prosecutors said Tuesday's announcement isn't linked to the Paris investigation. And while the festive spirit continues, there's also a message to proceed with caution.
One person has died and 11 more have been injured after unidentified gunmen opened fire on tourists in the Russian city of Derbent, which is located in the southern Republic of Dagestan. The shooting took place on Tuesday evening, but local authorities only recently broke the news. Details now with RT's Medina Kolchinova.
The attack happened when somewhere around 20 tourists were on a panoramic terrace of the ancient fortress. Bullet castings of different calibers were found at the scene of the attack, and while the investigation is currently underway, the head of the region believes that the attack was carried out by militants from an armed gang. Now, Derbent, the city where the attack happened, claims to be the oldest city in Russia and is renowned for the Narinkala fortress. Now, that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, it houses Russia's oldest mosques as well as Islamic religious school. However, quite recently, the whole region has been known not only for its historical heritage, but mostly for a number of quite vast anti-terror operations. In a neighboring region, a group of 6 were detained, and allegedly they were preparing a number of terrorist attacks to take place around Russia. Now, in November, 11 militants who claimed that they were followers of the Islamic State terrorist organization were killed as a result of yet another operation carried out by local law enforcement. And at the beginning of the same month, a leader of an IS affiliate located in Russia's North Caucasus were killed in another operation. So as you can see, Russia's North Caucasus, especially the region of Dagestan and neighboring Republic of Kabardino-Balkaria, remains quite volatile.
Now, fresh gunfire has erupted in an Indian Air Force base near the border with Pakistan, where an earlier attack resulted in the death of at least 6 people. According to witnesses, at least 1 helicopter fired at an area inside the base. Early in the morning, 4 gunmen disguised in army uniforms attacked the Air Force base in the northwestern Punjab state. All attackers and 2 soldiers were killed during the gunfight. Authorities blame the assault on Pakistani-based militants. The attack comes on the heels of a visit by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Pakistan in an effort to revive the talks between the 2 nuclear rivals.
A blast went off on Friday afternoon near a French restaurant Le Jardin, frequented by foreigners in Kabul. 3 people died, including 1 security guard, a 10-year-old boy who was passing by, and an attacker. About 15 people were injured and were rushed to a nearby hospital. Security forces have cordoned off the area for precaution and arrested a male suspect. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack. Earlier, the group urged civilians to stay away from official gatherings, military convoys, and centers.
A horrifying scene was captured on surveillance video today in Tel Aviv, Israel. It shows a man opening fire on a bar. 2 people were killed, 3 others injured. Police are searching for the gunman. No motive is known.
Security video from a grocery store shows the gunman calmly shopping for food moments before the attack. He then places his black backpack in a cart, pulls out a machine gun, and leaves the store shooting anyone in sight. Security video from a packed bar nearby shows patrons taking cover as the gunman sprays the area with gunfire. Seconds later, a survivor stands up. The attack rattled central Tel Aviv's busy commercial district as people celebrated New Year's Day. Israeli police say 2 people were killed and at least 7 injured. "We were shaking, hiding in the storage. We leaned against the door so they could not break in," said Asnat David. Hundreds of police scoured the streets and nearby buildings, searching for the gunman who got away. Police have not released the identity of the attacker, but said people who knew him recognized him in the video and called authorities. The exact motive of the shooting is unclear, but follows a recent wave of violence carried out by Palestinians using knives, cars, and in some cases guns to kill more than 20 Israelis since October. 138 Palestinians were also killed, most while carrying out attacks. Just yesterday morning, Israel handed over the bodies of 23 of those Palestinians in an apparent move to ease tensions. Within hours, the New Year's Day attacker opened fire.
The bodies come home to the West Bank city of Hebron. Crowds fill the streets. They have come to bury the bodies of 17 Palestinians killed during attacks on Israelis in recent weeks. Israel transferred 23 Palestinian bodies on Friday to Palestinian towns and villages across the West Bank. In the past, Israel has kept the bodies of slain militants as a punitive measure or to trade for the remains of its soldiers. Israel has seen a wave of Palestinian street attacks since October, fueled in part by Muslim anger over stepped-up Jewish visits to Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, a site sacred to both Muslims and Jews.
Well, Israel continues its aggression against Palestinians. The occupying forces have launched 3 airstrikes targeting the west and east of Gaza Strip. The raids came after Israel claimed rockets fired from the coastal enclave hit southern Israeli towns.
אנחנו פועלים נגד אלה שמשכימים לארגנו, וידעו כל אויבינו שאנחנו נגיב בתקיפות על כל התקפה עלינו.
Revealing its new propaganda video featuring Donald Trump, using his call to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. as a recruitment tool, the very issue brought up during the last Democratic debate. ABC senior national correspondent Jim Avila has more.
Muslims of the West, take heed.
It's not from ISIS, but the Muslim extremist terror group Al-Shabaab. The Al-Qaeda arm in Somalia has posted a recruitment video using Donald Trump's famous vow to bar Muslims from traveling to the United States.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
The video is titled The Path to Paradise and encourages African Americans in the U.S. to convert to Islam and join the jihad. Trump's words are sandwiched between the recorded words of the U.S.-born cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, who was killed in a U.S. drone strike 4 years ago. He says the West will eventually turn on its Muslim citizens and seems to use Trump's words to support his premise. Hillary Clinton said ISIS would produce videos using Trump's Muslim travel ban as a recruiting tool. But until tonight, there had been no evidence of anything even close to that.
President Obama is beginning his final 12 months in office with a renewed effort to reduce gun violence following a year that saw 331 mass shootings, incidents in which 4 or more people were shot. Mr. Obama is planning a series of executive actions which would not require the approval of Congress. The president is wrapping up his vacation in Hawaii. Chip Reed is there.
It was just after the mass shooting at an Oregon community college in October that the president decided he had to take executive action on guns. He made the announcement today in his weekly address posted on the White House website.
I directed my team at the White House to look into any new actions I can take to help reduce gun violence. And on Monday, I'll meet with our Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, to discuss our options.
Sources tell CBS News those options include expanding the definition of who is in the business of selling guns so that more gun sales trigger background checks, and requiring enhanced reporting and tracking of lost and stolen guns. Today, the president blamed the Republican Congress for giving him no choice but to take unilateral action.
We know we can't stop every act of violence, but what if we tried to stop even one? What if Congress did something, anything, to protect our kids from gun violence?
Last month, Senate Republicans blocked Democratic proposals that would prevent people on the terror watch list from buying guns and require background checks for online gun purchases.
Basically all you do.
Meanwhile, some states are taking action on their own. In California, a new gun control law took effect today, allowing judges to order the seizure of guns from people deemed dangerous by their own family or by law enforcement. Texas, though, is going in the other direction on gun control, with a new law allowing guns to be carried openly in public places.
The NRA did not respond to our request for a comment, but Elaine, when the details of the president's plan are announced next week, you can bet that the response from gun rights supporters will be furious.
The new year's setting off a heated debate across this country over gun laws. In the coming days, President Obama expected to take executive action expanding background checks, while in Texas, a new open carry policy taking effect today, allowing gun owners to visibly carry weapons in public. ABC's Ryan Owens in Dallas tonight.
Some Texans spending their New Year's Day proudly wearing their weapons in public, and as of today, it's all perfectly legal.
Very historic day for Texas.
Registered gun owners can now wear their guns in a holster in church, in banks, and many other businesses. As long as they show their license, gun-toting Texans can even visit the state capitol without going through a metal detector.
I think the bad guys have guns, so we should all arm ourselves too.
The Lone Star State just became the 45th and most populated to allow registered gun owners to open carry, as it's known. Supporters of the new law say it will make this state safer, that bad guys will think twice if they see a good guy with a gun. Not everyone is convinced.
I don't want to be like a victim of someone's idiocy because they're going to like try and be like Rambo or something to try and save some people.
Some police departments are worried too that 911 will be flooded with calls.
They have a gun.
One department even producing this video to educate nervous citizens.
Is the gun out of its holster? Is the person acting reckless? Be open carry aware.
Any private business here in Texas can opt out of this new law, and plenty, including Whole Foods, have. All they have to do is put up a sign just like this one. It's also important to note you still cannot carry a gun to your child's school or in a courthouse.
Take a look around the passenger terminals at Chicago's O'Hare and Midway airports and you will see what appear to be police officers. But take a closer look. Not one of them is carrying a gun. In the event of an active shooter or a terrorist strike here, you might be surprised to hear how they've been told to react. Not fight back, not try to neutralize the threat, but instead to run.
You guys are police officers, but you don't have guns. You're unarmed. Do you feel safe when you're working?
No, sir. Not safe at all.
Absolutely not.
Do you feel almost as if you're a sitting target?
Absolutely.
It's not for lack of training or licensing or experience. Aviation police officers are all sworn officers in the state of Illinois. They get the same training as Chicago police, and many are military veterans or have second jobs in suburban police departments. These two officers, speaking in silhouette for fear of being fired, say all they want is to carry a gun like any other law enforcement officer. Just 2 years ago at Los Angeles International Airport, a man with an assault rifle killed a TSA officer, wounded several others, before being shot and wounded by an armed police officer. If the same event took place in Chicago's two airports, the nearly 300 unarmed aviation police would be defenseless to stop it.
So in the event of let's say it's a terrorist attack, let's say it's a shooter, what are you supposed to do?
Run.
Run.
Hide.
Hide?
And seek shelter.
This internal Chicago Aviation Department document obtained from Aviation Department sources outlines the policy. If evacuation is not possible, hide. We must also ensure that unarmed security personnel do not attempt to become part of the response. Here's the training video officers say they were instructed to watch.
If evacuation is not possible, you should find a place to hide where the active shooter is less likely to find you. Block entry to your hiding place and lock the doors.
We are nothing but casualties if you tell us to run and hide. And how can the public look at us if they see police officers running and hiding? That goes against the very oath that we were sworn to, that we took.
It's the Chicago police who carry guns at both airports since they are the primary law enforcement agency. If there's a major incident or an arrest, aviation police tell us they must wait for Chicago police to show up, a unique arrangement among major U.S. airports.
It doesn't make any sense.
Matt Brandon is an official with the union that represents aviation police officers.
So basically they're just, no disrespect to those officers, but as their role at the airport, they're glorified security guards.
That's exactly right. And my question to the city is, you send these men and women to the Chicago Police Academy to be trained as police officers, to be able to respond as police officers, to be able to act as police officers.
The Chicago Police Department has 231 armed officers assigned to O'Hare and Midway, and the city says that's enough. So too does the Chicago Aviation Department about its unarmed force. And the staffing level of armed police is, for the most part, similar to other major U.S. airports. If you compare the top 3 busiest airports in the U.S., Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson has 178 armed police. Los Angeles, 572, while O'Hare is budgeted 175. The numbers do not include additional security, such as private security personnel. In an email to CNN, the Aviation Department says the multi-level security has proven effective in stopping and preventing crime, and that violent crime incidents are extremely low. But there's been no explanation why the nearly 300 aviation police officers here are unarmed. The department is declining to discuss security measures.
Well, the toughest legislation aimed at protecting the rights of transgender people in the nation has passed in New York, following complaints of discrimination, especially in the city's public places. From now on, it's unlawful to deny calling somebody by their preferred name. Moreover, they don't have to prove being transgender. So how do New Yorkers feel about the new rules? RT's Igor Piskunov finds out.
Women will really have a fit. They will want to complain about having men going into the women's bathroom, though.
It's also illegal now to call them men if they present themselves or think of themselves as women.
Wow, that's really a deep question right there, because then you're going to offend the homosexuals. Yeah.
If somebody does use that as a exposure for to get to women in bars and stuff and clubs, so that could be potentially unsafe. So I would suggest how do you prove how do you prove that?
How would you feel if you're in a male's bathroom and then a woman comes in saying that she's a man, but clearly she's a woman, well, physically, but she thinks she's a man? How would you feel?
It would be awkward. It would definitely be awkward, and it would just all guys would be probably that's in the bathroom will probably be shy, or they would.
So you'd feel a little violated in that situation, right?
Yeah, definitely, because she could probably just get a glimpse of my, my good stuff.
Without a doubt, tolerance matters just as much as freedom of expression and freedom of belief, but many would agree privacy matters as well, and these places, they're as private as it gets, really. Among those skeptical of the new legislation is Walt Heyer, a man who'd once undergone a sex reassignment surgery to become a woman, who later changed gender back to the original. He says the law may do more harm than good.
You're going to have people who are predators, who are sexual predators, people who just want to go into the women's restroom, and they will do it because the law allows them to do it. And the worst of it is that there are no laws protecting the other people. There should be laws in place that protect the women in those restrooms from becoming part of the predator's fantasy. And those laws really need to be far more restrictive in protecting them and allowing them freedom of privacy.
The highest fine for violating the new law is $250,000 US. The question is, will it really uphold people's rights or create new potential for offense?
Turning now to the historic floods in the Midwest. Today, the death toll in Illinois and Missouri rose to 24. The Mississippi River has begun to recede in parts of Missouri, but the trouble is just heading downriver. Nearly 10 million Americans are under flood watches and warnings.
This morning, the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Merrimack rivers are raging. Homes here have washed away. Neighborhoods are torn apart.
I've never seen that before, and well, it's a historic flood.
Parts of I-44 shut down. The Coast Guard and the National Guard have been deployed. All hands on deck, ready for rescues. In some spots outside St. Louis, flood records have been shattered. In Eureka, they've never been hit this hard.
It's 4 feet high here because I'm 6 feet tall.
With hundreds of homes now islands, thousands more are in danger. Nearly 24 levees are at risk. Power plants, water facilities are down. The rising river cresting around Valley Park, where nearly 900 have been forced to pack up and get out.
It's really devastating to think about everything, our own home going under and everything that's in it.
With the Mississippi River in St. Louis expected to crest today, the flood stage sits at 30 feet. The water here expected to reach 13 feet above that. They're packing tens of thousands of sandbags to fortify cities, big and small. The next 24 hours critical. As the water rises, any sense of comfort vanishes.
I just pray that everything goes good and that we're, safe.
Tensions are climbing between Russia and the United States, with President Vladimir Putin naming the U.S. as one of the threats to national security.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed an updated national security paper which brands NATO's expansion as a threat to the country. The document has accused the U.S. and its allies of striving to dominate global affairs. It also says the recent buildup of military potential by the Intergovernmental Military Alliance around Russia's borders violates norms of international law. The paper also lists color revolutions and biological weapons as threats to Russia. The Ukraine crisis, which began in 2014, has soured relations between Moscow and the West.
Russia's new national security plan says the national priority is securing the status of a leading world power. It says Russia will boost cooperation with the BRICS countries, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, APEC, and the G20. It is also stressed that the Russia-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination is a key element in maintaining peace and stability in the region and the world.
A big rise in the status of China's Second Artillery Force, the PLA's Strategic Deterrent Force. It's been officially renamed as China's Rocket Force, making the PLA a joint forces with the Land, Navy, and the Air Force. In addition, the Strategic Support Force has been formed to highlight the importance of electronics and space in military strategies.
the chairman of the Central Military Commission, President Xi Jinping, has rendered army flags to the newly established units of the People's Liberation Army in Beijing. They are the Army Leadership Institution, the Rocket Troops, and the Strategic Support Troops. She said in his speech that the entire military should strengthen its capability, implement military strategies under the new situation, and comprehensively build a strong army through reforms. She says the reforms are a way for China to realize its dream of strengthening the military.
To establish the Army Leadership Institution, the Rocket Troops, and the Strategic Support Troops is an important decision by the CPC Central Committee and the Central Military Commission to realize China's dream of strengthening the military after considering the current situation.
Iran's defense minister has stressed the need to boost the country's defense capabilities and develop different types of missiles with a proper range, precision and maneuverability. Brigadier General Hossein Dehkhan said Iran's right to defend itself is not negotiable and it's a red line. He said nothing can hamper Iran's progress on the defense front. The defense minister noted that Iran's defense and missile capabilities pose no threat to neighboring countries and that Iran's military might only serves to ensure stability and security in the region. Dehkhan said Iran will do whatever it takes to enhance its deterrence capability. The top general's remarks come a day after President Hassan Rouhani condemned the U.S. plans to impose new sanctions against Tehran over its missile program and instructed the defense chief to press ahead with the development of missiles within the framework of the nation's defense policy. This comes amid serious doubts about Washington's compliance with its commitments under the nuclear agreement signed between Iran and the P5+1 group in July.
The U.S. is accusing Iran of launching tests on rockets near American warships and commercial traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. One Iranian missile passed just 1,500 yards from the aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman last Saturday. The American charge raises tension between the U.S. and Iran after the nuclear deal this summer.
The Syrian army is making more advances on the ground. It has now recaptured several villages in the eastern Hama province. Government troops backed by national defense forces are now in full control of 3 villages near the strategic town of Al-Salamiyah. Military sources say terrorists from the Al-Nusra Front, Ahrar al-Sham, and the so-called Free Syrian Army have been forced out of these areas. Elsewhere, the army has managed to destroy Al-Nusra Front hideouts, killing a number of militants in Abbasiyah district south of Daraa province. Government shelling of Takfiri positions has also left a top commander dead in the town of Atman, some 40 kilometers north of Daraa. A group of wounded terrorists have reportedly been evacuated to hospitals in Jordan.
Bless this statue of our Lord in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.